Hello students, and welcome to Biology 150, Principles of Biology. My name's Janice Gallagher and I'll be your instructor for this class. In 150 we are going to be studying a lot of very important fundamental biological processes, so I think that you'll get a lot out of this course, especially if you stay in biology and go on to take courses like anatomy and physiology or microbiology. You're going to find that you'll keep coming back to this material. So although our entire semester will be online, taught remotely, I'm hoping that you get a lot out of it. And while I'm very comfortable teaching the material, so I've been teaching biology for about 40 years, I confess I'm new to teaching online, so there may be a few little bumps in the road, but I will do my best to make this as smooth as possible for you. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the course and about how the format, how we're going to be meeting remotely. So the lecture is divided up into 4 units, and the first unit is about the properties of life. What does it mean to be alive? So the different traits and characteristics, and we will talk a bit about viruses because they actually help teach us about life, since viruses are in between living and non-living. So while most people talk about them as being alive, we talk about killing viruses, etc., etc., most biologists do not consider them to be living because they lack some very fundamental properties of living organisms. So we'll be talking about that in Unit 1. And then in the second unit, we look at energy processing by living organisms, so how living things get energy from the environment. So we'll look at plants and how they use the sun to make sugars from carbon dioxide and water, photosynthesis. And then we also look at how animals can break down those sugars or other nutrients like proteins and obtain energy from it. Okay, and then in Unit 3 we start talking about DNA, which is what makes up our chromosomes primarily. It also has some protein in it, but the chromosomes carry your genetic information. So Unit 3 is all about genetics, how depending on which chromosomes you inherit from your parents, it can give rise to various genetic traits. And we even talk a little bit about genetic testing and genetic diseases. So for example, if you look at these human chromosomes, humans have 46 chromosomes, but if you look at this little girl's chromosomes, she actually has an extra one. If you look at pair number 21, you see she has 3 instead of 2. So this is a characteristic of a genetic disorder, Down syndrome. So we'll look at some examples of that, and then you'll learn about how, knowing what the genetics of the parents are, you can make predictions about what kind of offspring they may have. Okay, and then in Unit 4, it's all about how the DNA in your chromosomes, through a process called transcription and translation, allows your cell to make proteins or polypeptides. So this is a huge theme in biology. They call it the central dogma. It's basically, what your parents pass on to you is some of their DNA, and then that gives you the recipe for making proteins. And one of the main things we're going to talk about this semester are all the very important things that proteins do. So they make up hormones, and they are what your enzymes are made of, and they have structural roles, and they help decide what can move in and out of cells, and so on. So being able to control protein synthesis is the most important and main function of your genes, your DNA. So that's a quick overview of the lecture. And then each week we will have a lab, which sometimes goes along with what we cover in lecture, but not always. So for instance, in lab, we do have a lab where we learn about microscopes, although sadly we won't be able to use them, but you'll still learn about them. But that's not something we cover in lecture, so it's not entirely overlapping. Okay, then a little bit about the structure of the course. So you're already on Blackboard, so you know that's where you'll find all the materials for the course. Now this says Biology 212 up here, so I also teach that, but it's similar for our class, the 150 class. So on the left you see the course menu, and it has a lot of tabs that you'll find useful. I did change the Zoom meeting, so it's actually not there anymore. I put it under course content. That's how we're going to be meeting for lecture and for part of lab. Our labs are very long, so we will not be spending 3+ hours on Zoom for lab, but we definitely will have part of our labs on Zoom. Okay, and then your syllabus, for example, is one of those tabs, so check that out. It has a lot of useful information, including the lecture and the lab schedules, and when the tests are. And then these are the 4 ways we're going to be communicating with each other this semester. Announcements I use a lot, so please check your announcements. Sometimes I also forward those to your email, but not always. So please check your announcements before every class, and I'll also be putting the Zoom link there as well. And then I already mentioned the Zoom meetings will be under course content. If you need to email me, there's a tab here. I use my Montgomery College email, not through Blackboard. So the send email, MC email will go, that's how you communicate with me. And then the discussion board I use for a few things. For example, in your an assignment that you're going to be getting soon, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself on the discussion board. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. And I also put something on the discussion board called a student forum, and I'm really hoping that you will find that useful to communicate with your fellow classmates. So if you have a question, you can put it on the student forum on the discussion board, and hopefully another classmate will answer it. So I'm not going to be formally posting things on it. I do monitor it, but it's mostly a place for you to chat with your classmates. Okay, so those are the ways we're going to be communicating with each other this semester. Course content is the tab on the course menu that you're going to use the most, because this is where all your course material is. So for example, here's what you see right now. If you open that up, the Welcome to Principles of Biology is actually where you are currently. Notice it has some other tutorials on it about how to do various things on Blackboard, the platform we're using. Here's where I move the Zoom meetings. So you'll find the link here, and then I'm leaning towards recording your lectures, not labs, but lectures. So I'll be putting those recordings here as well. And then the third folder is all the lecture material for Unit 1, PowerPoints, objective sheets, assignments. Eventually the lecture test will be here. And then there's also for lab. I'm doing that one by week, so we meet once a week. So there'll be a folder with all the information you'll need. You do not need to buy a lab manual for this class. It's all going to be provided for you, but you do need that lecture book. So please make sure you have a copy of Campbell Biology. It doesn't have to be the one that MC Bookstore sells, but you can get an older edition. But please do get one. You really, it's critical for learning this material. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Okay, one more thing. If you open up the Lecture 1 folder, you'll see that there's 4 pages in it under the table of contents. If you look at the second page, I'm just giving an example. Here you see one of the most important things that you'll be using to prepare for tests, and that's the lecture objective sheets. So you'll be getting 4 throughout the semester, 1 for each unit. So this is for Unit 1. And if you have a printer, I recommend you print out a copy, because it's your study guide basically. It's, you know, where you go to find out, oh, am I going to be tested over that or not? So you'll look under the lecture objectives. So, you know, my main advice for doing well in this class is to really pay attention to this objective sheet and be able to answer each question on there. Okay, and then also on this page are the PowerPoints from the Campbell Biology book. And yeah, there might be some variations depending on which edition you have, but really it hasn't changed that much through the different editions. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to our class, and I look forward to working with you all, and I will see you in lecture, in our Zoomed lecture. So look for a link that I'll be sending you.